Hello, my friends, and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Just a quick announcement before we get into the video. I wanted to mention that tomorrow night's stream might be a little late. My brother is giving me a new router, which is part of the problem with streaming last week. So I will probably want to get that set up before we go ahead and get into the streaming. But I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure I need to stop and pick up some new Cat 5 cables to run to everything. Just because I'm going to be placing it a little further away from myself. It's a very large box and will very likely get a little warm. And I don't like being too warm. Go figure. So I might be an hour or so late. I will try to update on the community tab if you keep an eye there. Otherwise, probably expect me about 8 p.m. Mountain Time as opposed to the normal 7. Theoretically, I should be able to get it set up in time for 7 o'clock, but you never know. If something happens, I would much rather just give you guys the heads up. That said, let's go ahead and talk about the actual topic, right? This is inspired by a former Sony exec says it's about time for PlayStation to reconsider its focus on cutting-edge graphics. And the reason this, sparked my little brain is partly because on the Offensive Charm podcast last night, we actually had a bit of conversation on graphics. I don't know about you, but personally, I am tired of just about every game trying to reach that reality point on their video games. We've reached the point where they can get really freaking close, almost one for one. There's that little bit of uncanny valley in a lot of them, but the environments are gorgeous and amazing, and I'm sick of it. I am. If I want gorgeous and amazing trees, I can go out to the mountains. I'm not that far away. I would like to see something more stylized, some more stylized stuff. I'm actually very excited for Expedition 33 coming out because while it does kind of hit that realistic point with the face, there's still plenty of stylization in the game itself. Nightingale I already play, which has its own style. Playing behind me is Schedule 1, which I wouldn't say has the most amazing graphics, but the gameplay is fantastic. As a matter of fact, I saw an article earlier today that said the player count for Schedule 1 has actually exceeded the player count for Monster Hunter Wilds, which is just crazy for me. I am sure those game designers are over the moon. It is a small indie game, and the fact that it has taken off this well is not only hilarious, but fantastic for them. Here they're basically proving you don't have to have amazing graphics to create an amazing game. The gameplay itself is satisfying enough. While yes, good graphics are nice, they're good to have. The fact that games have lost their style kind of really ranks up there in problems with the fact that the writers can't write anymore. To me, it seems to echo the fact that if it's not based in actual reality, too many game developers don't understand what to do with it. They don't know how to project their ideas into something other than what they're faced with every day. They need to see their current reality in their games, or they can't play. It's the lack of creativity across the board. Now, in some ways, I wonder if it is in fact the actual design teams or if it is a lack of direction from the higher ups. Now, in the end, I'm not going to blame just the people who actually design these environments. I know a lot of them probably wish that they could work on something more artsy, more amazing, a little more creative, while others probably get a huge sense of satisfaction being able to create some of this stuff. It's not to say that they're not being artistic. It's more that there's more to gaming than making it look like real life. Most people don't play games to feel like they're participating in real life. And that's another reason that people get so upset about the way the characters look. It's the first thing most people really think about when they think about their games is the way their characters look, because that's what most people focus on. You know, you're looking at the character and what it's doing. And there's a little less consideration given into the environment other than how it plays into the rest of the game. But the two kind of overlap, in my opinion. There's definitely an issue in regards to not being truly creative. If you can't create a new environment, can we really expect you to create new characters, to create new ideas, and to present them in a new and exciting way? I'm going to say no, in my humble opinion, that no, they can't. Somewhere along the way, the idea of good graphics translated to somebody, and maybe it's a C-suite executive or something translated that into mean looking like real life. For most people, when we say good graphics, we mean, they're clean, they're clear, they're easy to interpret with our eyes, that there's the use of light, the use of shading, that it doesn't appear too flat, that it moves like a real environment. Just because it's stylized grass doesn't mean it has to be still, but it is something that goes beyond just looking like real life. Well-drawn art, well-conceived art, whether it's something that turns what's normally real into something more fantastic, or it's something that is entirely unreal, that is maybe the first time we've seen something in this way before, pink trees with puffy leaves or some bullshit. As long as it looks clear and we can understand what it's supposed to be and how it fits into the game and the rest of the environment, that's what we're looking for. We're not looking for it to be one-to-one to life. In certain games, in certain games, that kind of design is best, war games like Red Dead Redemption, something where you want the game to have a real feel is probably best. But, in a fantasy game or a game that's not supposed to be actually historical, or something that's a little more fantastic, or even in space or whatever, it doesn't have to try to look like it's a real thing. It just has to try to look good. And I'm sure I've probably repeated myself here just a little bit. This PlayStation exec, Shuei Yoshida, is quoted as saying, "Up until now, PlayStation's DNA has been driven by values such as cutting-edge graphics that have continued since Ken Kuratagi's time. Users have also expected that from PlayStation. However, it's about time we reconsider that. Of course, it's necessary to provide the best in terms of graphics quality to those who want it," Yoshida continues. "But in order to continue to be popular with users in a broad sense, we naturally have to change our way of thinking." It just really makes me miss games like Shadow Hearts that had its own unique visual style, or Okami, or Cuphead, Hollow Knight. Games like that very much had their own style and appearance and drew you in with this fantastic environment that they created that we loved, that had nothing to do with how one-to-one it was on life. Final Fantasy XII, not my favorite Final Fantasy game, but still a good Final Fantasy game. At least I know a lot of people who enjoyed it as it transitioned from the more turn-based into the more real-time battle system, is a good example of that kind of situation. Even the MMO, Final Fantasy XIV, has an amazing stylized look that is still graphically clear, has a good fidelity to it, but very much also has its own style. I don't think that looking like real life is as much of a style as people might want to think. While on one hand, it's fun and amusing to watch the balls on one of the horses in Red Dead Redemption curl up because of the cold. On the other, there's something special about standing in Breath of the Wild and looking at the world around you and realizing while it doesn't look real, it still looks good. Even a game like Valheim, where I wouldn't call the graphics the best, is gorgeous to look at times. Sailing on the ocean in Valheim is an amazing experience. The water that they use, the way that they make it, is gorgeous and worth whatever they do to it. Then you have a game like Xenoblade Chronicles X that comes out and looks amazing on the newer hardware despite being released on the Wii U, and blows another game like Pokemon out of the water where they haven't done anything really. And then of course Pal World looks fantastic in its own way, despite the slightly cartoony air of it. All of these games have their own special value to them, and it really feels like AAA especially is moving away from that, so you have to seek it in the smaller and smaller realms. I'm very excited to see the Mouse PI game come out, because that is its own special graphic style. I think that's going to be amazing. Reminds me of Bendy and the Ink Machine. Again, an amazingly interesting graphical style. And then you can just scroll through an indie games tab and just see game after game after game of amazing graphics that are just going to be fantastic when they finally come out. Everything from pixel art to someone who literally embroidered their images to create the animation. There's so many fantastic things out there yet to come out, and personally I'm looking forward to all of those. It's just disappointing that none of the AAA studios seem to care about that kind of passion in art anymore. But I think I've probably rambled enough. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments. I always look forward to reading them. Thank you so much for checking out this video. If you really enjoyed it, please consider liking, subscribing, and hitting that notification bell. If you really liked it, feel free to share it with others. I'd love to hear what they think too, so drop your thoughts in the comments below. A special thanks to the channel members for their amazing support. You are the best. Interested in joining them? Check out the description for more info, and I will catch you later.